Bartimaeus suffer from?
Blindness.
Correct. In Mark 1 verse 6, what kind of animal hair is the clothing John the Baptist is wearing made of?
Camel hair.
Correct. In Mark 5:22, what was the occupation of Jairus?
He was the ruler of the synagogue.
Correct. In Mark 5:22, when Jairus saw Jesus, what's the first thing he did?
Next question.
Correct. According to Mark 5 verse 1, in what region did the demonically possessed man referred to as Legion 5?
Gatherings.
Correct. In Mark 1 verse 6, what kind of animal hair is the clothing John the Baptist is wearing made of?
Camel hair.
Correct. I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way. A voice of one calling in the desert, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. Mark 1 verse 2 to 3. Mark begins his gospel by quoting these words from the prophet Isaiah. Whom does he see as being the fulfillment of his prophecy?
John the Baptist.
Correct.
And that's all for group 2. How many questions do you have correctly? 9.5 questions correctly. Put your hands together for this young lady. Group 3, are you ready? Do we have questions from the book of Mark? Group 3, over to you. Your time starts now. Go ahead.
According to Mark 5 verse 22, what was the occupation of Jairus?
He was the ruler of the synagogue.
Correct. According to Mark 5 verse 1, in what region did the demonically possessed man refer to as?
Seaside at Gadarenes.
What?
By the seaside at Gadarenes.
Correct. What infirmity did Bartimaeus suffer from?
Blindness.
I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way. A voice of one calling in the desert, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. Mark 1 verse 2 to 3. Mark begins his gospel by quoting these words from the prophet Isaiah. Whom does he see as being the fulfillment of his? According to Mark 5 verse 3, what infirmity did Bartimaeus suffer from? Correct. According to Mark 5 verse 1, in what region did the demonically possessed man refer to as Legion 5?
Gadarenes.
We end questions from Mark. We move to the book of Luke. You still have 1 minute. Go ahead. Book of Luke. Sister Grace.
Gadarenes.
According to Luke 17 verse 11, Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem when he encountered 10 lepers. In what region was he at that time?
He was in the midst of Samaria and Galilee.
Correct. Next question.
According to Luke 17 verse 14, what did Jesus say to the lepers when they called out to him?
Go show yourself to the priest.
Correct.
Who was the governor of Syria when Caesar Augustus believed that everyone should be taxed? According to Luke 2.
Cyrenius.
Correct.
What should you do before removing the moth out of your brother's eyes?
First, remove the mote out of thine own eyes.
Correct.
According to Luke 15 verse 12, the lost son asked his father for a share of the estate. After the father divided the property between them, the son decided to relocate. Where did he go to?
He went to a far country.
In
Next
the
question.
parable, Jesus tells of a man who was stripped off his clothes, badly beaten and robbed while traveling between two communities. According to Luke 10 verse 30.
That's all. A round of applause for group 3. How many marks do we have? 10 marks. 10 marks. 10 marks. Group 4, are you ready? The book of Luke, your time starts now. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
In the parable, Jesus tells of a man who was stripped of his clothes, badly beaten, robbed while traveling between two countries. According to Luke 10 verse 30, what are the names of the two communities the man was traveling between? Jerusalem and Jericho. Correct. What is the profession of the author of the book of Luke? Who
Next question.
visited Zachariah in the temple with a message? Angel Gabriel. In Luke 15 verse 12, the lost son asked his father for a share of the estate. After the father divided the property between them, the son decided to relocate. Where did he move to? A far country.
Correct. Next question.
The lost son appears in Luke 15 verse 11 to 32. With the first 10 verses of the chapter devoted to 2 other parables. What are the 2 parables that appear before the parables of the lost son?
Next question.
According to Luke 17 verse 14, what did Jesus say to the lepers when they called out to him? In Luke 15 verse 12, the lost son asked his father for a share. Why did Mary put Jesus in the manger? According to Luke 2 verse 7. Because there was no room for them in the inn. Correct. The narrative in Luke's gospel begins and ends in the same place. Where?
Next question.
In Luke 1 verse 20, what happens to Zachariah when he doubts what the angel Gabriel has told him? He became dumb.
Correct.
Let us start with the basics. Where can one find the tale of the Good Samaritan? Luke 10 verse 25 to 27. Correct.
Correct.
According One gains eternal life by loving the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, all your strength, all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. What clarifying question does the interrogator then ask? The lawyer.
Wrong.
According to Luke 17 verse.
And that'll be all for group 4. A round of applause for group 4. How many questions did they have correctly? 5 questions correctly for group 6. 6 questions correctly, group 4. Group 5, your questions now from the book of Luke. 2 minutes starts now.
According to Luke 17 verse 11, Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem when he encountered 10 lepers. In what region was he at the time?
Samaria and Galilee.
Correct.
According to Luke 15, in the parable, Jesus tells of a man who was the governor of Syria when Caesar Augustus believed that everyone should be taxed. According to Luke 2 verse 2.
Shepherds.
Wrong. According to Luke 17 verse 14, what did Jesus say to the lepers when they called out to him?
That's a repeated question. The next one.
What occurs in the far country where the prodigal son went?
Next question.
Only in the Gospel of Luke do we read about a widow's son being raised from the dead. Yet did the miracle take place.
Next question.
According to the Gospel, according to Luke 1 verse 20, what happens to Zachariah when he doubts what the
That's a repeated question. Don't answer. We have another question now from the book of John to continue with your time.
The seventh I am by Jesus is found in John 15 verse 5. Complete the missing word from the quote, I am the dash, you are the branches. He who abides in me.
I am divine. I'm
Correct.
divine.
According to John 2:1 to 11, what town was Jesus in when he turned water into wine at a wedding?
Canaan.
Correct. After the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus performed another miracle that defied natural law. What was it?
He walked on water.
Correct. The third miracle recorded by John involved a man who had been sick and unable to walk for 38 years. Jesus healed him and he immediately was able to walk. The man had waited by the pool of water noted for healing. What was the name of this pool?
Salome.
Wrong. And that's all your question. A round of applause for group 5. How many marks do we have? 3 marks correctly. Please, a round of applause for group 5. Now we have 1 minute for each question because we have questions from the book of John. And we are giving you only 5 questions in 1 minute. 5 questions in 1 minute. Are you ready, group 1? Can we pass the microphone to group 1? Are you ready? Your time starts now.
It is I, do not be afraid. Who did Jesus come with these words in John?
Disciples.
Correct. When Jesus washed the feet of the disciples, who was he speaking of when he stated in John 13:11, ye are not all clean?
Judas Iscariot.
Where was Jesus' destination once he left his original location? In John 4:3.
Galilee.
Correct. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. About whom did
The
Jesus...
adulterous woman.
Correct. In John 5, Jesus heals a man. However, there's something about the circumstance of this healing.
He healed on the Sabbath day.
With what words does the gospel according to John start?
In.
Correct. In verse 21, one of Lazarus' 2 sisters goes out to greet Jesus. In the NKJV Bible, what's the first thing she says to him?
If thou hadn't been here, my brother had not died.
Round of applause for group 1. You even answered more than 5. My God. How many questions? 7 questions correctly. Wow. Okay, an extra 2. Are you ready, group 2? All in 1 minute. Your time starts now.
Who was the high priest the year that Jesus was crucified?
Next.
What do Matthew, Mark, and Luke have to say about the resurrection of Lazarus?
Nothing.
Correct. Where was Jesus when he said, I and my Father are one?
Solomon pouch.
Correct. What does Jesus say to search in John 5:39?
The scripture.
Correct. In John 11:25, we find the 5th I am statement by Jesus. Complete the missing words from the quote, I am the dash and the life. He who believes in me. Next.
Next.
According to John 4:6, about what time of day was it when the Samaritan woman came to the well?
Adnan Saicha.
No, wrong. The second I am statement.
The last question we're going to read is this one.
This one that I read again. According to John 4:6, about what time of day was it when the Samaritan woman came to the well?
11 to 6 hours.
Correct.
That's all for group 2. The next time you do that, we minus your mark. How many marks do we have from group 2? 4 answers correctly. A round of applause for group 3. Are you set? 5 questions for you, all in 1 minute if you can. Are you ready? Your time starts now.
The second I am statement of Jesus appears in John 8:12. Complete the missing words from 2 different places in the quote. I am the dash of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the dash of life.
Light.
Yes, light, correct. In chapter 2, John records an event as marking the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. The other gospel writers include the same event at the start of his final week. Which story is this?
Is
According to John 11:1, where did Lazarus live?
in Bethany.
Correct. The fourth I am statement is found in John 10:11. Complete the missing word from 2 different places in the quote. I am the good dash. The good dash.
7.
Correct.
That'll be all for group 3. How many questions do we have correctly? 3 questions correctly. A round of applause for group 3. Group 4, are you ready? Just 5 questions, as much as you can carry. Are you ready? Your time starts now.
In John 4:4, Jesus had to pass through a region to get to where he was going. Where did he have to pass through?
Samaria.
Correct. Jesus sat by a well when a woman came to get water. How did Jesus greet her?
Give me to drink.
Correct.
Next.
With what words does the gospel according to John start?
E.
Correct.
Next.
A Pharisee, also described as a member of the Jewish ruling council, comes to visit Jesus under cover of darkness. What was his name?
Nicodemus.
Correct. Jesus fed a large crowd with only a little food on more than one occasion. The miracle that John records says that 5,000 were fed with only 5 loaves and 2 fishes. How many baskets of leftovers were gathered?
12 baskets.
Correct. According to John 4:6, about what time of day was it when the Samaritan woman came to the well?
6 hours.
Correct. How many questions do we have? 6 questions. A round of applause for group 4. Now we have group 5. Are you ready? 1 minute to answer as many as you can. The time starts now.
The first of the so-called I am statements by Jesus appears in John 6:35 and again in verse 48. Complete the missing word from the quote as it appears in NKJV. I am the dash of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst.
I am the bread of life.
Next.
Correct. The missing word is bread. Oh, sorry. Jesus did this miracle even though the recipient of the miracle was a good distance away. What was the miracle described in chapter 4?
He healed a nobleman's son.
Correct.
Next.
In John 18:28, what political position did Pontius Pilate hold in the Roman government?
He was a fair ruler.
Wrong.
Wrong. According to John 4:11-43, what did Jesus say to bring Lazarus out of the tomb? He was-
Lazarus, come forth.
Correct. According